Today's homeowners are not like their parents, and it's important to understand the difference so you can reach them more effectively. We're going to talk about how on today's episode of Built to Scale. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode. We are back in the house. It's Rod and Jeff. We're excited to connect with you again to be able to share some tips and tricks on how you can grow your business faster and stronger. We've got an interesting topic for you today, Rod. What are we going to be discussing with the folks here joining us?
Well, it's 10 ways today's homeowners differ from their parents.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
know that luckily, we're both millennials, so we're lucky, I think, that we own homes because that's not a given for our generation. But I would say, yes, I have approached home ownership differently than my parents. What about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, 100% difference from the way that my parents thought about their home.
Yeah, and I want to take some time to jump in today to talk about what those differences are. And we're going to include some tips on how you can pivot your sales approach too, because it's important, especially if you've been in the game a long time. If you're doing your demos and you're doing your sales calls with boomers the same way that you're doing it with millennials and even Gen Xers, there's going to be a gap, I think, in being able to connect with them. So you got to understand your audience better. People have changed in better some ways, maybe not so better in other ways. I mean, not to judge previous generations, but it's important to understand the differences. So let's jump into that, Rod. My first question for you, let's start off big scale. Let's zoom out. How have home ownership priorities shifted between generations? What's different about what we value now compared to our parents?
Sure. I mean, I'll start with a statistic, right? A recent survey showed that 65% of millennials prioritize home technology compared to just 25% of baby boomers,
I can see
right?
that. Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's highlighting the importance, right, of how uh, technology has influenced our own behaviors. The younger generation is born into more technology than ever, right? I mean, your kids, I'm sure they have an iPad. They may get an iPhone soon, right? Like they're bored with the technology versus our parents, and we're used to that, right? We're used to having those advancements, and it shows in our behavior that we want a home that has more technological advances.
Absolutely. And I think that has to come across in how you're pitching your products to the audience. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you say, Rod? Like, you got to talk about the technological side of what you're selling.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
What else are you seeing? Like, obviously, there's a focus on technology. What are some other ways that we're different in terms of what we prioritize being homeowners?
Right. There's a movement towards sustainability, right? Being eco-friendly uh, attracts that younger generation, right? The materials that you're using, that they're not damaging to the earth, that they're not damaging to the family living inside the house as well, right? We've learned not to use asbestos as a as an insulator because it causes cancer, right? So like there's a lot of advancements and a focus on that, like more greener, right, efficient business buildings and homes. So I think that that's a big area, and also like there's a shift of from large suburban homes to more compact urban living, right? That's happening, and or living in smaller spaces, or getting used to like that whole tiny home movement. I mean, you've seen it. You could put it in your backyard and you can have a guest.
That's a great point,
Mother-in-law
Rod.
quarters.
Yeah, yeah, the in-law apartments. I agree.
Yeah.
Especially popular down here in South Florida. Those are great points, Rod. Like the spaces we call home, they're shifting, and so we have to think about how we're pitching our products. Like it seems like a natural fit. If we're gonna bring all of this together, Rod, millennials, how should companies speak to them overall based on how our values are different? If you could bring that all together, give us a hot tip.
I think just keeping in mind, right, like aligning the benefits of your products or services with those shifts in behavior, I think, need to be at the forefront of any marketing or communication that you do, right? So like increasing demand for energy efficient windows, right? Those, make sure that you have that in your marketing. Make sure that you sell those energy efficient products. Um, right, modern door designs that align with like how a contemporary home looks, and it fits aesthetically, right? Like those taking that into consideration is going to make a huge impact. And also just like shifting the way that you communicate with someone of an older generation versus a newer generation. Keep in mind who you're speaking with and which generation they're from, so that you can have a better impact. Right? You can talk about the smart technology with a millennial more often than you can with a baby boomer.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And I want to jump into the technology angle a little bit more from our next question, Rod. I think that, again, if you've been around long enough, the phone call is the best way to be able to seal the deal, to build the relationship, to get in with a potential lead homeowner. That shifted too, right? Like, how has technology influenced the buying decisions of today's homeowners?
I mean, greatly. It's amazing, right? Like, I mean, over 80% of new homeowners in 2023 started their home search online, right? This is like a drastic difference, right? When I bought my first place, I was really young, uh, and I'm on that like cusp of millennial. I would say elder millennial is my age group.
There's a term
So,
for that now. Did you know it's
uh,
zennial?
Zennial? Well, I'm
Zennial.
right there. And there's this like, I used a realtor for my first house, right? Like that's I met them through someone else, through networking, right? Like that's how I met them, and they guided me in the whole process. But now, I mean, people are using apps, realtor.com. They're using, Zillow. They're using all these different apps that allow them to get insight into what the marketplace looks like with different data points, right? They're doing virtual tours. A lot of the listings on the MLS and on realtor.com have the capability to do virtual tours,
Yeah.
right? Where you can actually like experience it without actually being inside the home, or spending the time, right? Like, man, I remember my realtor, amazing lady, CW Wallace. She I mean, we visited maybe like 48 homes, if you could just imagine, right? When we were
Yeah.
looking for a house. And that's driving around in her car, spending her gas, like just with the hope of getting that commission. Now that process has like moved along so much faster, right? Like even she says it all the time, like, her for her, the online reviews of her service are super important, because it's like it allows her to share other people's experience with her experience, right? And allows people to see that she's a competent person that will get the job done. And then also, like, obviously being involved in community forums. I don't know if you've heard of a tool called Neighborhood. I mean, that in that tool itself, that was a tool that allows you to talk to other people in the neighborhood, and ask questions to other people in the neighborhood, all those things. um and yeah, I mean, I think overall, the role of technology has influenced more the later generation than any other generation, on their decision making process, right? Like, versus, you used to have to go through a realtor. Now you have apps that can help you look at different data points, and you can combine it with the experience of a realtor, right, at the end, right, of the process.
For sure. And home services companies, I think they have to realize too that they've got to shift their approach to be technology first too. So like Rod, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to make sure that you have a solid online presence with your reviews and your customer feedback?
I mean, 10 people are expecting it. If you don't have that, you're I mean, they will think you're shady, or less than reputable, right? If you don't have somewhere online that you are rated by other humans.
Agreed. And I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing for having like digital experiences for your customers. Home walkthroughs are great for realtors. Do you have a video showing how you protect the home during installation? Do you have some sort of overview showing your sales consultant and how the demo process goes? Like those are all experiences people can get online that you don't have to hold back on. And I think we
Yeah.
want that. I know I want that. What about you, Rod?
Yeah, absolutely. I want that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
that
be able to
feedback,
see it. Yeah.
so important. I agree. So, all right, we're talking about technology, obviously very important to today's homeowner, less so for previous generations. Let's talk about the economy. I mean, it's a big thing we're all dealing with right now and going through. Can you give us kind of an overview, Rod, of what are the financial challenges that homeowners face today that their parents didn't necessarily have to worry about?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think this is my my language. I was a loan officer at one point, so all I did was run numbers to make sure that people qualified for home loans, right? So I think there's a lot of considerations. This younger generation carries a lot more debt than the previous generation. I think they carry an average student loan debt of like 30,000 for millennials, which influences whether they buy a home or they having their buying capabilities diminished because of that debt, right? Because whenever you're doing a loan, you have to consider like the debt to income ratio, like how much debt they have to pay down in comparison to how much income they have. So um, there's also the consideration of the gig economy, right? Like in gig economies, like usually there's it fluctuates in terms of income, right? One month you may be well, one the next month not so much. You may work extra, you may take extra Uber rides during the holidays so you can buy more gifts, but then like January goes back down. So there's also a trend for generational living due to financial constraints, right? Which also it could be. I think it's a good thing and also like a very drastic difference from the past where you were maybe independent at a younger age, smaller. It was less of a cost overall to purchase a home, and there's also a cost less of a cost of financing it as well. Right now, we're in an area where the interest rates are a bit high as compared to the recent past, and that's affecting the decisions because that's also like determining how big of a payment you make per month, right? Which could restrict you from how much you can afford. um there's also like, I mean, overall, right, like as as a as a vendor, as a home service company, right, you have to make sure that you're taking these things into consideration. If there's a bigger debt load, how can you offer financing options, right, or even like some form of bulk discounts for the services that you're offering, right, for windows and doors. There's a lot of companies offering special financing for this type of upgrade. You just have to be mindful and cover that in your presentation and open that discussion with the buyers that you're dealing with, because they have other considerations in mind as well, right? That need to be taken, be mindful of, so that we can get the project done.
It's a great point, Rod. Financial considerations, it's just not the same as it was. I think about my dad, he could support a family on one income. And
Mhm,
man, I could never even picture being able to make ends meet
mhm.
if we weren't on a two income situation. I know a lot of American families have to deal with that. So
Yeah.
financing is appealing, I think, more and more to modern generations. Let's pivot again, Rod, and kind of keep going into this exploration. There's also, I think, a big difference between the allure of doing DIY projects between generations. Like my dad was very handy, did a lot of things around the house, but he also, for the bigger things, would probably hand it off to a company just because of the unfamiliarity of doing larger scale projects. We have
Sure.
YouTube these days, millennials, right? Like you might be watching this now on YouTube. Like we can look up how to do anything online. So that's also, I think, impacted our generation too in terms of like the approach to bigger projects. How does that factor in for home services companies in terms of like pivoting your approach?
Yeah, I mean, like just as a stat, DIY home improvement sales have increased 45% in the last decade, right?
Yep.
So you were mentioning YouTube, obviously, like there's a ton of content out there. You can learn how to do anything. You want to learn how to lay tile? Done. You want to learn how to reframe your entryway? Done. Like there's a YouTube for it, right? So I think that that rise in DIY window and door installations, there's you can do it yourself, right? You can go to Home Depot and actually like install your own windows and doors. There's kits out there that are available, right? And it just like, if you're looking at it from a manufacturer or service or home service company standpoint, right? Like it's important to provide these user friendly products as well, right? As an option, right? They, if they want to do the installation themselves, be able to like give them the option to sell them, and but it also gives you an opportunity for content, right? You could be the company that shows them how to do it, and guess what? They'll probably buy it from you because you showed them how to do it in the first place.
That's a great point, Rod. I
Yeah.
see that a lot in the plumbing and HVAC space, where you'll
Hmm.
see, companies put out like mine, or I'll show you how to fix this and these little things, but the larger scale, I need someone's help. I'm going to call
Oh
you in.
yeah.
It's a great point, Rod.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
keep
I mean,
going.
I've
Oh,
it's
sorry.
it's amazing. Like I do plumbing stuff myself, the little stuff, myself,
Yeah,
just because I learned it on YouTube.
right. It's a
Yeah.
whole new world, and it's exciting too, just to be able to have that empowerment to be like, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. To have that option, I think it's nice.
Yeah.
Home ownership has changed in terms of the communities we lived in too, Rod. Live in, I should say. Our parents, I think, maybe had the single family home, with the big yard. There was a little bit more of a difference, I think, a generation ago. What do communities and neighborhoods look like now in terms of where homes are located that we have to take into account?
Yeah, I think I saw a stat recently. 70% of today's homeowners prioritize amenities like the gyms, parks, and community centers. So, like overall, I think just thinking about that stat, right? Like thinking about how neighborhoods are built, have changed. There's a desire for walkability, proximity to the things that you need, right? A convenience store. It reminds me of like a neighborhood down in there's a few neighborhoods like that in Miami. But there's one called Country Walk, and like in the center of the neighborhood, there's a bunch of houses all around, but in the center of that neighborhood there's like a little area for like a shopping center that has like, a ballet studio, that has a jiu-jitsu place, that has like, and you could literally walk from anywhere. It's like a 15-minute walk from any house in the area, right? Like making it very easy. It's a beautiful area, very well developed. So I think there's like a need or a want to value community engagement and local events in those types of neighborhoods, right? Like, and for if you're looking for like, if you're a home service company or a window company, you have to think about the significance of, your how you fit into enhancing that community, right? Because like your home service is actually improving the aesthetics, it's improving the security of the community. If people feel safe and their houses are beautiful, they're going to want to interact and go out and shop and, all those things, use the gym, all those things. So just keep that in mind as a home service company, and how you can improve the communities based on how people are currently prioritizing um, their behaviors or their use of their community.
Is there a difference between today's homeowners and previous generations when it comes to valuing energy efficiency and sustainability?
Yeah, I alluded to it a little bit. It they're looking at it as it's your opportunity to increase the value of your home, right? Green home features can increase a home's value by like 9%, right? And that's why you see a rise of solar panels, energy efficient appliances, sustainable materials, right? All those things are increasing because all those elements are actually increasing the value and what people are willing to pay for a home,
Yeah.
right? Imagine like, I mean, when I bought my house, I didn't think that there were no houses that had solar panels around in my neighborhood. Now,
Everybody.
probably like 30-40% of the houses in my neighborhood have solar panels, right?
Yep.
Um, because like there's long-term cost savings by having those sustainable homes. Energy efficiency, right? Like the ability to like allow your appliances to last longer because they're not under the strain of the outside elements as well. Um, there's really like the market is going to continue to grow for anything energy efficient, especially energy efficient windows and doors, right? That can reduce our heating cost in the winter and our cooling cost in the summer, right? Um, yeah.
Both great points, Red. I mean, bringing it all together, what does it come down to for home services companies to be relevant to today's home buyers?
No, I think you have to be mindful of how people's mindset has changed and behaviors have changed towards their home, right? Make sure that you're addressing these needs before they're even spoken, right? So make sure that you use green, energy efficient windows if you're selling windows. Sustainable products if you're installing sustainable products. Like flooring or remodeling a kitchen. uh, Make sure that you're putting those things first because that's what's important to that younger generation, and that younger generation is actually like the ones that are going to be buying homes in the next 2 decades.
It's true. Pivot, folks. It's you got to diversify your messaging. I think that's the main thing we want to get across to you today. Rod, thanks for
Absolutely.
checking in and sharing your latest tips with us.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. It was great to be here.